Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be talking about the newest album from Reba McEntire called Stronger Than the Truth. Okay, so I should probably provide some context why I'm choosing to cover the newest album from Reba McEntire, an artist that I grew up with and remain a huge fan of to this day, both behind the mic and in front of the camera. And normally that would be enough, but legacy acts like her don't tend to get huge attention these days except from diehard fans and critics. But for as few detractors and country music fans that they have towards her, and really she's so universally beloved at this point in popular culture and of her career, even despite some wild swings and choices, I've never really considered Reba as an album artist where I would rush out to find a new project. Yeah, her incredible line of singles and hits, and even a couple of deep cuts, they've got staying power to this day. She's got classic songs, and it should be noted she's got the majority of producer credits on her albums, but not writer's credits. An act more known for great performances and curating fantastic albums than writing them herself. Now, most of the time, nobody really cares about this. It's indicative of the era and country which she came from. She's one of the few acts who has such phenomenal presence behind the microphone that nobody really cares that much. And she's also old and wise enough to sell and back up her words with some genuine substance in her performance. So if she's making comments off the album in the lead up to this, suggesting she's going to make more of a neo-traditional project, well, against all the odds, I was inclined to believe her. And it's not like she hasn't been through some real personal turmoil the past couple of years, most notably a divorce from her longtime partner and steel guitarist. So if she wanted to assemble one hell of a country album, she's in the right emotional headspace to do it, and I was at least curious, especially given how the critical reviews have been pretty considerable. So what did Reba bring together on Stronger Than the Truth? Well, I'll admit it, this is the sort of album which is almost too easy for me to praise. And yeah, a big part of this is how Reba McEntire's music plays such a formative style of country for me that I've loved for years and that she can easily knock out of the park. But what I find so startling is how I normally experience this sort of Reba project from one of her many greatest hits albums, not a solo release. In other words, a wide selection of absolutely fantastic songs, interspersed by a few that are just pretty good but feel a little bit too corny or a bit more of an overreach. But the fact that this project is as consistent as it is probably makes it among one of her strongest in her career when it comes to albums, at least since her spectacular run in the 90s. So yeah, it's great, probably her best in decades. And well, I'll say that my long familiarity with this style of music from Reba, it's the key draw to me. Hell, it was literally the music of my childhood, that soundtrack. But the fact that she's able to lock into that sound and style as if she had never left the 90s is a huge plus for me. So for those of you who might not have the context, let's talk about what has always made Reba's country material so strong. Now, of course, the obvious is her voice and her pure charisma, but what Reba has always grasped as a performer is her range and her vocal texture. She's got such a distinctive presence and tone to her singing that she can take so many different styles of writing behind her and make them her own. From the intimate love songs, the heartbreaking songs of loss and melancholy, and since she's always had a flair and knack for narrative, the darker and angrier moments that make so many of her songs feel so damn memorable. Now, this narrative focus and her tendency to go a little bit broad has prompted some criticisms that she can rely on theatrical melodrama that's garish or stagey or corny or even campy. And make no mistake, there is some truth to that, especially in comparison with the long line of women in country who play things a lot more reserved. But I think the difference with me is that Reba, like Dolly Parton ahead of her, have long realized the emotive power of melodrama and uses that style to her advantage to make damn great music. And while this album might be a little bit more understated than some of her flashiest moments, that spark is still there, and I'm not going to begrudge a woman in her 33rd album and is currently in her mid-60s to take it a little bit more easy. If she wants to, that's okay. Except that's not what she does. And indeed, the pleasantly surprised reaction I and a lot of other critics had is just how much Reba is really trying to deliver a heartfelt and potent performance on this album that has embraced the rich, organic textures of neo-traditional country. And while I was tempted to say it's easier to praise this album for what it's not rather than what it is, the truth is that even with what there is here, there's a lot that I really love, with even enough of a new spin to distinguish it from the annals of her greatest hits. Yeah, Reba's always had a fondness for Western swing, a subgenre that for the record, I've never quite loved, but I do respect how not only does she start her album in this territory, she then makes the opener, Swing All Night Long With You. It's one of the longest cuts on the album, chock full of saloon piano and fiddle, only to bring it back with an appropriately jaunty No You in Oklahoma. I also appreciate that when she indulges some more modern country cliches on the Carrie Underwood-esque groove of Storm in a Shot Glass, she not only puts the main melody on the fiddle, but also makes it one of the angriest songs on the album. Now, sadly, that approach doesn't work nearly as well in the weirdly patriotic love ballad Freedom, but I do kind of see the appeal, even if to me it's kind of the weakest song here. But then there's the ballads, where Reba has delivered some of the most considered but devastating material that you'd have to wonder how she can match it going forward, and yet there are cuts here where she actually does. The immediacy of denial and loneliness of a breakup, that hits hard on the title track, and especially The Clown, and I wasn't even surprised to see the rich pool of vintage country references on Tammy Wynette Kind of Pain, and then discover it was co-written by Brandy Clark. Hell, the key change is the sort of neo-traditional 90s country move that Reba pulls off in a way that makes me really wish acts of all genres would just bring it back. It's a great compositional choice. Why doesn't it happen anymore? And while it might be an unintentional reference to how both Your Heart and The Bar's Getting Lower seem to call back to the misspent hookups I remember from The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, I really appreciate the wisdom in the precautionary framing of the first song against the minor key acoustics and the pedal steel, and how time and falling expectations have left such a long shadow on the latter song. And man, that track, it really hits like a ton of bricks. I was not expecting it for that particular mode of presentation. But indeed, if there is something that this Reba album infuses into a lot of these songs that she chose, it makes this album feel different than the rest. It's a sense of time. The title track was actually written by Reba's niece, but it gathers so much more weight when it comes from Reba, not only in the devastating slew of songs about the revelation of infidelity, but from how much time and love was spent in fostering that relationship for it all just to go away in as sad as possible moment. Similar case for the chance encounter with a woman who tells a story of her fleeting connection with her lost addict mother before she died on Cactus in a Coffee Can, against all the fiddles and the banjo. Stories like this, they have a heft and names that feel distinctive and memorable, if only because the life story details allows for a much greater picture in order to fill in the backdrop. Hell, if there was even the slightest details on The Clown, you note how the chorus changes from the sense of shame upon getting dumped publicly in the first chorus to the chances that must be taken to find that love again if they even can on the second. What threw me off guard was In His Mind, though, one of the songs co-written by Reba, and the sort that shows the sort of heartbreaking framing and genuine empathy that's always been her hallmark, of an older man for whom his wife is long gone, never quite clear why, but you can probably guess. But because of his fading memory and faculties, he knows that she'll be back, or at least he hopes she will, and nobody's got the heart to maybe tell him otherwise. Which places this among songs like She Thinks His Name Was John and The Greatest Man I Never Knew, among some of her most powerful tearjerkers, and yeah, it got to me. Honestly, the album probably could have ended there and I would have been fine, but then she actually ends the album with a tribute to her own mother on You Never Gave Up on Me that cuts just as deep. And if you're thinking this all sounds like a heavy or depressing album that's kind of hard to approach, the weird thing is that it's not, in a very neo-traditional country way. Because there are albums that are so emotionally devastating in their writing that you almost can't approach them on a regular basis. But Reba's long mastered the ability to make that weight actually palatable. And again, it's no surprise she's working with Brandy Clark, who's got that same uncanny ability to make you cry, but make it feel like the heartbreak's not scarring, but cleansing. You kind of need that. It's good for you. Or to put it another way, yeah, this is just a damn great country album for which I'll freely admit I am biased on a fundamental level. Again, I grew up with Reba's music in the house and her larger cultural presence, including her criminally underrated sitcom, but also showcased the sort of emotional poise and writing across a well-produced whole project for which she's been kind of inconsistent in the past. And you wouldn't be wrong for highlighting that it very much is analogous to a Reba album that could have been released 25 years ago, especially if you're a die-hard traditionalist who has never really liked her steps towards more adult contemporary or pop country tones in the past, but it does have the feel of a passion project that is by far her most consistent within country, the likes of which you probably haven't heard in decades. And thus for me, yeah, I'm comfortable giving this an 8 out of 10, an absolute recommendation. Again, this might come from formative bias in my heart, but this is absolutely the sort of country that I will revisit so often every time. Beautiful stuff, and while I'm not one to believe this will break through to Nashville, man, I can only hope. definitely make time, check this out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I know probably not a lot of people are going to be looking for a Reba album review, but man guys, if you're a fan of that neo-traditional sound, you're going to love this. And if you want to buy or stream it, highly recommend you do. Links down there below. I got the poll up there for what you guys are all thinking about it. And hey, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. Just a cursory reminder before Billboard Breakdown tomorrow that the series has now moved to a new channel. Link is going to be in the card over there. Highly recommend you guys come on over and see what we're doing. But till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.